Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started, a little information for our guests and the listeners, and even the Patreon listeners. These are your trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about messed up stuff. I'll describe it in a different moniker in a second. But that includes horror movies, horror culture, dark and macabre things, which could include anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse. There will be F-bombs, and S-bombs, and D-bombs, and B-bombs. Even some C-bombs. I like those ones. But if that's not your cup of tea, then maybe take a moment. Back out now. This is you have 20 seconds to comply. No, we're going to be talking about fucked up shit. So if that's not your thing, maybe listen to something else. Or think about it for a second, and then listen to us talk about fucked up shit.
Go away, or I shall taunt you a second time.
Elderberries. Also, before we get started, just a little plug here. We do this podcast on a bi-weekly basis, I believe, but Steve and myself also have a couple of other projects. Steve has his book, The Guide to the Recovery Toolbox. God, I murdered that.
Close enough.
Guide to the Recovery Toolbox. No, it's a very informative and very helpful book with some tips and tools about recovery and psychology, and a very interesting read. My side
project. Find out more on the webpage. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. What is the webpage for that, Steve?
Oh, I just meant the Horror Makes Us Happy webpage. There's a link. You can go there and then go take it that way.
What's the website for that one?
recoverybookpress.com.
Oh, I was actually just like sarcastically joking, like I didn't know the name of horrormakesushappy.com, but that too.
Oh. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Continuing. It's a fun one today. My side project is, of course, Pieces, the ongoing, currently webcomic pipe dream of developing it into a couple of short films based on the individual characters, and then ultimately a full-length feature film about the whole psycho fuck cannibal ghoul Texas Chainsaw style family that lives underneath an island off the coast of New York City. You should check it out at piecesoflesh.com.
And today's guest
is Mr. Victor Bonacore.
What's going on?
For Diary of a Deadbeat, Triangle, and Blood Wings. Yes. Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Pretty well. Doing good. And what are you working on at the moment?
Currently, I am promoting my new feature film titled Thrust. And it's like a thing I've been working on, developing for a really long time, for at least 10 years.
Oh, wow. Passion project, huh?
Yeah. It's my friend Hannah wrote this story. She used to have a zine called Axe Wound Magazine, Hannah Neurotica. And
nice.
She wrote this short story called Shit Fucked, a Vile Love Story. and we became like just kind of, I still never actually met her, but we just became kind of buds and like-minded people. And I really liked her zine. And she's like, I was making short films at the time. We connected, and then she's like, I have this short that I would love you to, maybe make into a film or something. My script is now it's very different than her story. Not very different. It's got the same kind of heart and everything, and it's, based on a lot of her characters, but, or like the four main characters were like her characters, but I've kind of turned it into this whole world, and I'm like, man, let's make a fucking movie. And it's, I think originally it was supposed to be a short film. Now it's just a whole nother beast.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's already been released.
Thrust?
Yeah? Yes.
Oh, no. Thrust we have an Indiegogo up right now. We're actually filming July 31st.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one we're making at the moment. Like, I just filmed a couple days ago with Linnea Quigley for Thrust, which was our first day of filming.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
We've been trying to get her on the show as well. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
In this interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like. The idea being that if we interview enough people, we might find some interesting common themes, but maybe some unexpected ones as well, which would also be cool. We come at things from those multiple different angles because sometimes it triggers memories that you'd forgotten about. But that said, it's not meant to be a therapy session, so if there's any questions you don't want to answer, you just say, I'll pass, and we'll move on. But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Okay, when I was a kid, I remember being terrified by Michael Jackson's Thriller. I remember,
you too. Yes, yes.
dude. There was like one specific scene. I literally remember being in Floral Park, New York. That was like, it's kind of like this like little very basic little town, and like right by Queens. Like it's still like Nassau County. It's not Queens yet. Little suburban place, and that's where I lived till I was maybe like 5 or 6. I don't remember, but I remember literally running behind the couch when like one zombie came out and like the black blood comes out of his mouth, and it just like freaked me the fuck out. I used to love watching it up until that. It was that, and then Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Well, okay,
Nice.
yeah, I can relate to both these things because Large Marge was scary as fuck. She was just very random claymation giant bug-eyed face, which is crazy.
And it comes out of the, I'm watching this movie.
Nowhere.
And I loved the movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. And I remember watching it and being like, it's just insane, but not like that insane. And when you're a kid and those eyes come at you, it was the scariest thing. Remember, those were like my earliest. And I do remember seeing Child's Play really, really young, but it was that one scene, and it still fucking freaks me out, actually. Might make me sound pretty lame, but I remember the scene at the end, when the mom picks up the doll after it was just talking, and then she's like, she takes the battery, she like empties the box, and the batteries come out of the box, and she's like, oh shit, that doll was just talking. She walked over, turns it over, the batteries aren't in it, he fucking spins his head around, and whatever he says, like, I remember that fucking freaking me out. So, and he crawls under the couch, like, that shit. Those are my earliest, like, memories of, like, getting freaked out and scared, but also interested in it. Because I remember watching the Thriller video over and over and over. And I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan still. And I have a fucking Thriller tattoo on my leg.
Awesome. Obviously,
it's stuck with me.
Right?
And I have a Pee-wee tattoo right next to that, actually.
Oh, of Large Marge?
No, but I should. No, just Pee-wee. Just Pee-wee throwing his hands up. Yeah.
All right. So, the thing about the black blood coming out of that one character's mouth? I guess that tripped you out. What else?
Oh man. Well, I mean, later on, it was The Shining. I mean, these are probably cliche answers, but it's just what it was. I remember seeing The Shining young, and fuck, man, that fucked me up. I mean, in a good way. I'm grateful, but it was, I remember that movie like really stuck with me, and I saw it probably too young. But the girl in the bathtub, man, that just destroyed me, and just still haunts me. And that was like the one that really terrified me. I also remember going, this is not movie related, but I remember going to Lake George as a kid. And I remember there was this little shitty haunted house like in the town that like existed, something that was like there year round. Like, because it was like a touristy upstate, like resort thing, like a fishing town or something. And I remember going there and being so scared of this haunted house, like wanted to go through, but I would cry and be asked to take it out. But then I still wanted to go through. And I remember there was like this Frankenstein thing in there that scared the shit out of me. And, but I don't know. I also like loved it. I remember like being so interested, and I think just interested in being scared, like I knew I wasn't going to get hurt, but, I don't know. It's, I don't know. Yeah. I think that's where maybe it stemmed from or something.
It's interesting that you both cried, but wanted to go through.
Yeah. I remember that. Like, I remember being terrified, but I wanted to go again, and I still wanted to complete it. Yeah. It was such an interesting thing.
Any idea why you wanted to complete it?
I don't know. I was so fucking young. Maybe like 4 or 5, something like that. Like really young. And
that was pretty young, yeah.
And I remember like sitting on my mom's lap and like her like not, you don't have to do this. I'm like, I don't want to.
Okay, no, that kind of makes sense. Like I was thinking, like, all right, 4 is too young for peer pressure, but maybe it's like implied peer pressure, even when a parent tells you you don't have to do this. It's kind of subconsciously counterintuitive
Defiant.
in a way, because they're telling you you don't have to, and your brain is immediately like, no, I want to now.
Right. And I remember it being like kind of kiddie. Like it was like one of those ones, like you sit on I think it was anyway, one of those ones you like sit on a chair that moves through, like you don't walk through, and you kind of goes through, and it's probably super cheesy. But
to a 4-year-old.
Right, 4, maybe 5, yeah, something like that. But and I love that stuff now. Like I love if it probably doesn't exist anymore, but I love finding things like places like that have like these little kitschy areas. I'm sure Steve, you live in Columbus, you said, right?
Yeah, but I'm not from this area. I've only been here for like a year.
Okay, so have you ever been to Fairborn, Ohio?
No.
Okay, Fairborn, Ohio is like it's like maybe 20 minutes from here at Dayton, and it's like this little town, and they have this like one strip that's all like Halloween stores, and it's called it's like the Foy's family, and they have like literally it's year round, and they have like and then during October it is like the coolest thing, and it feels like you're in like the 90s, like you're stuck in the 90s, and it feels
Chris
like
might have to come up for a trip.
Oh, it's awesome! It's so cool, and it like feels like that show Stranger Things. Like it has that feeling, like legit feeling to it. It's a really cool little town, and it's like a little slice of Americana.
So going back to this thing where you were crying, but you wanted to go through, were you recognizing already that you experienced like some sort of joy or happiness, or is it curiosity? Like, can you remember what maybe emotions were tied with that?
I think it's thrill. I think it's like seeking thrill and like not really understanding what, fear is. And I think it was just thrill, like the thrill of make believe, like actually scaring you. That's why we go to haunted houses, right? And you go to haunted houses now. Like I worked in haunted houses as like a teenager and stuff, and those are great times. And then once you work in a haunted house, it's hard to get scared going through them.
Yeah.
But I think there's a new appreciation. Like I still love going to them. I love. And by the way, I hate all that fucking haunted house shit. I just gotta say, I'm sorry. Where it's like the ones where they're like, "Can you take it?" And like we're gonna punch you and hurt you and torture you and like that
waterboard you with ketchup and mustard, and then we're gonna
fuck
lock you in a box and maybe pee on it.
Dude, they do that kind of shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, get out of here. That's taking the fun out of Halloween. Like, I want to go to a haunted house where it's like a fire department volunteer thing. And there's like, people running around in cloaks, and you can see their like Nike sneakers underneath their fucking, $10 cloak. That's what I love. I'm like, it's nostalgia to me,
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. So what is it that's not fun to you?
I don't like that there's like a new trend in haunted houses, maybe like the last 5 years or so, where it's like make it more of like an immersive experience where it's like you go in and they can touch you and you sign like a release, like you're allowed to get, fucked with, and they can push you around and I'm sorry, I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I'm sorry, I don't even think about it. So you go into these things and they like kidnap you and they'll blindfold you. There was one in Long Island, New York called like Blackout. I'm not trying to like, they're doing their thing. It's just not for me. I'm not telling you not to support it or anything. To me, I'm just trying to
understand why it is that you don't like it.
I just think it just takes the fun out of it. I just think it's like, I like movies because they're make believe. I don't like violence in real life. I like wrestling, pro wrestling, because it's, make believe.
So would you say it's because it's too real?
Yeah, like fake fights. I like wrestling because it's fake fights and it's entertainment and it's theatrical. That's what I like. I like the entrances. I don't like MMA or UFC or any of that shit because to me it's just like, I don't want to watch fucking people beat themselves up. And people like that, and that's cool. I like boxing, but I think there's like this classiness to boxing that like UFC or MMA don't have. And I don't need a bunch of MMA guys coming after me to fight me, So sorry, guys. Like, do your thing, make your money, but like, just not for me.
Oh.
It's more like just me seeing like, Yeah, like I would never pay to sit there and watch a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless it's wrestling, like pro wrestling or something like that. But,
well, you mentioned Pee Wee Herman being one of your favorite movies. I mean, that was a pretty good clue that you liked amusement, or
Yeah.
Yeah. So you like some kind of a thrill, but you like it being what's the word I'm looking for? Not realistic, but fantasy in some way.
Yeah, I guess so. I like creating your own world and your own universe. And
so did you experience anything either watching these movies or reading stories or whatever else might have scared you that either triggered some new fears or enhanced some existing ones?
Like
phobias?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess I was freaked out by dolls and like long hallways as a kid. I remember because of The Shining and Child's Play. I remember going to hotels and long hallways, which just freaked me out.
I mean, it's kind of an adjective now, but there really is something almost Kubrickian about long symmetrical spaces like that. Like how he has those long drawn out zoom shots where, it's just perfect symmetry, or sometimes, he follows the rule and you have slightly off perfect symmetry. But yeah, he's always got those like long perspective shots that stick with you.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, and it's just like this I don't know, this long corridor. Yeah, something about it. Just like what's down that end,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's freaky. That's why that scene in that movie Irreversible, which I'm really not a huge fan of.
I still need to get around to watching that. It's just I keep hearing the fact that it starts off with a very long rape scene, which turns me away from wanting to watch it.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's very disturbing.
Yeah.
And that scene alone is just like I don't ever have to watch that again. I'm sorry.
Someone watch it. Yeah.
It is, and it's a movie, and but like yeah, I just like that's how I am with that stuff, and it's not one of those things like I'm old now, so it affects me. It's just like they made it, and I don't need to watch it again. I don't need to own it. I don't own Irreversible or anything like that. Yeah.
Did you dress up for Halloween?
Did I dress up for Halloween? Like this year? Yeah, every year.
Like when you were a kid.
Oh yeah, that's Halloween is definitely one of the biggest I think influences into why I love horror and stuff. Or yeah, I love
a favorite
Halloween.
costume.
Oh man, when I was a kid, Jesus, whoa. I think it was always like a devil or a vampire and stuff like that. Yeah, like the classics that your mom picked out for you. And then when I was older, I mean, I remember when I got into horror movies, maybe like really into horror, like obsessed with it, and I started like buying Fangoria magazines and stuff like that. And I remember going as Leatherface and getting really into making the costume.
At what age were you going as Leatherface, out of curiosity?
Maybe 14.
Okay.
Something like that, like 7th, 8th grade.
That's still
7th
awesome.
grade. Yeah, I remember getting feeling it was so cool. And then after that, maybe it was like whenever Scream came out, I remember like that was a big deal, like trying to find the Scream costume. And I remember like finally my mom finding it because I was like really wanted to go as the Scream guy.
Could she not find it because it was like sold out? I mean, I can't
imagine it was. No, that's what it was. It was like sold out. It was like the first Scream movie had just come out, and it was like the hottest costume.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it too, and I was like, I want to be it. And she couldn't find it, but I remember her like surprising me, coming back and finding it for me. And that's the kind of stuff I like. I appreciate that so much, like I do. And that sounds corny and stuff, but like the things like that my parents did, I remember that, and I will always remember that. My mom getting me that fucking Scream costume when I was 14, 15 or whatever.
What'd you like about that one?
Scream, I think, I think it's super silly now, but at the time it was, I think that might have been the first like slasher I saw in the theater. You know what I mean? I think that was like, or the first Wes Craven. I saw a New Nightmare in the movies. I remember in elementary actually sneaking into New Nightmare, and that scared me.
Well, yeah, because it breaks the fourth wall,
Yeah, totally. I remember the glove. Like Freddy's always scared me. I love the Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street series. I'm a big Freddy fan. And I just rewatched them all again, and I was like, they're still so much fun. And I do that scene in New Nightmare where the hand comes up from the truck when the guy's driving home, and like doesn't it like rip his balls off or something? But or like alludes to it or something.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't know it, but and I remember that freaking me out. Me running out of the theater actually. Like scared. We were sitting in the back row because I was like, I want to make sure I'm close to the door. And oh man, I'm going off target. Were we talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy?
I think we were talking about we're still in childhood and we were talking about Halloween. Steve, did you ask if you had a least favorite costume?
I had not, but I was getting to that.
Yeah.
Well, like I still dress up every year because I just like feel like it's like part of my religion or something now. And I mean, I don't know what it was when I moved to Dayton, but I'd gotten out of wrestling for a long time, and then I got back into pro wrestling, and then every year since like I moved here, I've gone as like a female wrestler every year. So I've dressed up like Bailey and fucking stupid. What else did I do? I don't know. I dressed up as like one of the fucking Bella twins. Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. I'm still more punk rock than you.
Oh yeah.
What do you like about dressing up as those?
Oh no, it was just fun. I love wrestling. I love.
Is there something about it being a female wrestler that is funny to you?
No, not even funny. Like, just it's whatever because it's Halloween. You can do whatever you want, man.
Yeah, just the randomness of it.
And yeah. And I love female wrestlers. You know, like I have a lot, and I think over the past, so many years they're getting more and more respect, which they deserve. I think now, like WWE is pretty terrible right now, but like, man, the females to me just steal the show all the time. I think like Charlotte Flair is like one of the most talented people, on the roster, just in general, not just women. I'd rather watch them wrestle Sasha Banks and I'm talking about like corporate wrestling or whatever.
It sounds funny to me because it's almost like for you Halloween is more like what's the word I'm looking for? Cosplay.
Huh. And I've never been into that like cosplay stuff. Like I've never been into that at all. Like I'm a very teach their own.
But that's what I'm saying is it's right. Funny that you're describing this as somebody else would probably describe cosplay.
That is interesting. I would never go around dressing like Bailey not on Halloween. I remember
that's what I'm saying is like to you that's your opportunity to do that.
Hell yeah, right on. Fuck yeah. Oh, it's super fun to going around with my kid and freaking out like the rednecks here in Dayton.
I'm sure.
Go to the houses with the Trump flags dressed as Ronda Rousey. It's pretty fun. Yeah. I love freaking them out, man.
If they even recognize who it is, just the fact that you're dressed up as a woman, I'm sure.
Oh, dude, it makes them so uncomfortable, and I love that. It was great. I think it was one year my kid was Chucky, and I was dressed up like I think Ronda Rousey. And like going up to the doors and they're like, what? Making them so uncomfortable. I love it.
Okay, so going into teenage years, you had mentioned Scream and New Nightmare. What else impacted you in your teen years?
Well, I remember seeing Basket Case, and that like changed my life. That movie, man. I remember seeing Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case. That I was like older. I think I was driving at that point. I might not have been. But there was this video store a little further out called 112 Video in Patchogue, and they had even more than my hometown one. It was like huge and just one of the best video stores ever. I ended up growing up and doing when I got older, I did a commercial for them actually that ended up being on Cartoon Network.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was fun. But I rented Basket Case from them, and that movie blew me away because I was like, I wasn't scared from it, but I loved it. And I was like, I think I always credit that to the movie that made me want to make movies.
What did you love about it?
I loved how you could tell it was low budget, but it was so much heart to it. I don't know. I just loved it. I loved the monster. I'd never seen anything like that. I think that's what it was. Like, what is this? Like, it feels like a horror movie, but it's also funny. And I felt like it was like the coolest character, the coolest monster that I'd ever seen. I loved it. I just fucking loved it. And
what was cool about it?
Belial, like this brother monster that lives in a basket in New York City. And I think I loved the fact that it was New York City, because growing up on Long Island, the city is just a train ride away. and my sisters always being from the city, and or going to the city, and going to punk shows and stuff. Like, I always thought the city was this awesome place, and then I think Basket Case just being like one of the best New York City horror films ever. It just, the setting, the characters, and Belial is the coolest. And now, and I love Frank. Frank's become a good friend of mine, and I worked on one of his films a few years ago, actually.
Nice.
You mentioned it was low budget, but it had heart. What signified the heart part of it to you?
I don't know. I just feeling like the actors going for it, all the side characters, and you just felt it. I don't know. I think there's sometimes there's stuff you feel and you don't know why. And I think that was Basket Case. I just knew. I was like, this movie rules so much.
Did you feel it was well acted?
Oh yeah, I think the lead is amazing in it, and I think Beverly Bonner kind of steals the show too. Like the roommate who's ends up is in all Hendelatter's films, and she ended up becoming a friend. She passed away last year, actually. So rest in power, Beverly Bonner. But yeah, so I thought I think the acting is great in that movie. I love that movie so much.
So maybe it was low budget, but the acting sold it for you.
Yeah. I feel like and I think that's in low budget stuff. If they don't have the money,
have to, because you don't have a choice,
right? But yeah, like
if it's low budget and you don't sell it,
right? Like I'm making this movie Thrust now, and it's going to be low budget. We're trying to raise $15,000, which is low budget, Yeah. But I'm working with a lot of good people, a lot of good actors and actresses, and and that's what's going to sell it. That's and if you have people taking it seriously, and that they're working in low budget, and they're not getting paid super Hollywood money, and that they're working their ass off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think you could just see that in film sometimes. That's what I loved about John Waters. These people are just friends making a movie, and they're going for it.
Yeah.
And they're doing something that no one's ever done before. So
All right, so we've got Scream, New Nightmare, Basket Case. Anything else in your teen years?
Started getting into John Waters a lot, David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what else.
What'd you like about those?
Oh, David Lynch, I just loved because that's where I started really, seeing like the dreamlike filmmaking. I don't know, it's like really out there, obscure, and of course it's led me to seeing a bunch of other people that came before him. But I think he was like one of the first guys that really like blew my mind with visuals and just big abstract filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And John Waters it's more the energy and the passion behind it, and just their fucking not caring and doing whatever they wanted, and pushing the envelope, so to say.
The some of the adjectives you're using here: energy, passion, dreamlike visuals. Was there something in maybe your home life or your family life or just your experience up until that point that impressed on you the value of those things, that made them valuable to you, or made you think that those are valuable?
That's a really good question. It's a really good question. I don't know if I can answer it. It's oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think just like the inspiration from my sisters and always being around that. I remember them being young and them dressing me up in drag and, watching Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I was like a really, really young kid. And I remember that. And I remember that hiding that from my dad. My dad, but I love you. And there's like pictures of me, like that. And I remember slightly remember that myself. It's more like stories that's been told to me, but I remember they're saying like hiding that from my dad and not letting him know that they're doing that. He was a little more
of course,
traditional Catholic. And
you wouldn't understand the floor show scene.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like he wasn't he's.
So the sisters were older sisters then?
Yeah, my older sisters, and they're a little older than me. Yeah, I think Tia's 15 years older than me, or a little less, and so they were older and were already like living in New York, like living and working in New York City, and were in bands and friends with cool people, and so they had a lot of influence on me.
So they were into Rocky Horror and punk. Anything else that you think they rubbed off on you in terms of horror? If not, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, not. I think they were more like the art influence, like punk and like the punk aesthetic and underground film more than horror, I would say, with them. I think horror was more something that I kind of, when I discovered it more and went down that road, that was, a lot of it was just me. I remember my dad, he wasn't in a new horror, but I do remember him like telling me about that movie, Them, like the giant ant movie. And when he was a kid in Brooklyn going to see that, it's like a 50s monster movie with giant ants. Like he saw that and he remembers running home like, a kid ever seen, like terrified, thinking like giant ants were going to come after him. And I think I remember him telling me that story and thinking it was awesome.
Okay. No, I mean, that's fair. If your sisters brought the art side of it to it and you brought horror to it, that makes sense too. I was just curious if they brought the horror to it, but it sounds like we said, they brought the art side of it and you brought the horror side of it.
Right on.
So by your teens, did you start meeting other people, other friends that you then became friends with who were into horror, or no?
Oh yeah, totally. And I think that's what you get more obsessed with the genre then, because yeah, totally. I think I started meeting people like outside of my school. I felt like in my school, I was like the only one into that stuff. Mm-hmm. I remember having, being in elementary and we'd have sleepovers every weekend and we would go to the video store and just literally rent like Freddy Krueger movies and shit and stay up all night half watching them, doing the Ouija board and shit. But then I remember, when you started getting older, I forgot how, I guess maybe high school. I said I was like the horror guy, in high school. And then college, I don't know. I guess my teen years, you start meeting people. I think I went to my first, I went to my first convention, I guess, when I was like 15, 16. I remember my mom driving me to Chiller Theater in New Jersey. And like, I was so excited to know that there was a horror convention. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I've been trying to get in touch with Kevin Clement, who runs that. He owned a shop called Chiller Theater in Rutherford, New Jersey, where I went to high school.
Right on.
And I've been trying to get in touch with him. I need to try that again.
Yeah, no, he's a super nice guy. I remember like getting into like, Fangoria magazines and stuff like that. And then finding out about conventions, maybe the early days of the internet and like going on message boards and shit. And then like, there's a convention and like where you can go meet Linda Blair and the dude from Basket Case. And I remember my first convention, my mom drove me to Chiller. And I remember meeting like Gunnar Hansen and like Linda Blair and Kevin Van Hendrick from Basket Case and just being like the happiest kid in the world.
Right?
And I was like, 15, 16, something like I wasn't driving. Fantastic. I remember my mom, and I remember just being like, I couldn't believe this existed. I was like, there's literally, I can go meet these people. I remember like meeting the dude from Basket Case and him having like a Belial prop from one of the movies. And like I have pictures of that and that no one will ever see. And but yeah, there was and I think that even dug me more into the world. And then you're at a convention and you're like, what are these things? And with these movies over here, and then I start discovering independent horror films and stuff like that. So yeah, I think definitely like Chiller was a huge part of that too.
So now that you've become an adult, what are some of the scary stories, books, or movies that you've come across as an adult that have really impacted you? Top three. What are the top three that come off the top of your head?
That just scare me in general, like
scare or influence.
God. Oh man. I'm gonna fuck this up. Jesus Christ. Okay, I feel like I gotta go look at my Blu-ray. VHS
no, just off the top of your head. What are the first three things that come to mind?
That scared me. God damn it. Okay. Man, can we come back? Because I'm gonna mess this up. I feel like Let's see. Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The reason that I ask it that way is because typically the first things that come to your mind, they come immediately, and there's usually a reason why those come to mind.
Well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, absolutely.
As an adult?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's one that just still has an impact on me.
Yep,
you know,
yep.
I just think it's so effective.
Can relate.
And it's partially, because of the way the production was. You could see the fucking fear in Marilyn, Burns. Like,
oh yeah, you can see the fear and discomfort because it's real. 100-degree temperatures, right. And they're all covered in nasty Caro syrup and pig guts.
Oh, absolutely! Yeah, that's one of the greatest performances ever, and shout out Robert Burns too, just production designer on that. So good. Actually, that leads me to that Tourist Trap, man. That movie still bugs me out.
Tourist Trap.
And I like to revisit that once a year. You guys ever seen Tourist Trap?
I don't think I have.
Oh, it's so good. And it's Chuck Connors, and it's like they go to this like wax museum on the side of the road. And but it's not really a wax museum. They're like, I don't know, more animatronic or something, but it's terror. I don't know. I still am scared of that movie. It's just it's the same production designer as Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
What is it that scares you about that movie?
The way these it's like mannequins and dolls coming to life, and that kind of bugs me out. Maybe that goes back to Child's Play, so maybe dolls still freak me out because Maniac too. That movie is, I think, one of the most disturbing movies ever.
Yeah, it is. And, like, you don't see it coming. Maniac seems like it's going to be a cheesy slasher at first, and it's like, this is fucked.
And maybe that's why it's so scary, too, because you don't think so. And I know that when I saw that, I also thought the same thing, that maybe it was going to be more in line with, like, Basket Case, like a fun horror movie, New York City feel. But, like, man, Maniac, and it's all Spinell, Of course, he's fucking a genius. And that is one of the scariest performances ever.
So it was like it was fun, but it turned brutal at the end or something?
Oh, my God. Oh, Maniac, you talking about? Yeah. It's Maniac is just all around terrifying. I think, and I think that's what now it's those kind of movies, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Maniac. Those can actually happen, and that's the stuff that's scary to me now, and that freaks me out. And when it's like those movies about like the vigilante guys, like that's what scares me now.
To go back to Maniac for a second, that came up while you were referencing maybe a reference to mannequins or dolls. Was there some reference to that in Maniac?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot. And so basically he's like stalking girls in New York and then like killing them and scalping them and then putting them on mannequins. And it's just super disturbing. Mm-hmm. And the performance is real, and he looks like a guy that would do that,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, that's, if you've never seen that is one of the best. It's the best performances anyway, and good effects, and really disturbing.
It is a classic.
I mean, as far as it having a connection to mannequins or dolls, I'm thinking it might. I don't want to use the word nostalgia because that's not exactly the word I'm going for, but how can I say this?
Well,
go ahead.
No, you finish your thought, but I know where you're going with this, I think.
I think the word I was looking for is just theme, because to give an example, in the Tampa Bay area, there is a museum for Salvador Dali.
Mm-hmm.
Dali, I went to it.
To pronounce it.
Oh, yeah?
So if you've been there, then you might have seen what I'm about to say, which is that there are a lot of examples of his earlier works and earlier drawings and sketches and things like that, and they show examples of motifs that keep coming up in his work again and again, and they say in certain portions of the museum, or maybe it was a tour guide or something like that said it, that a lot of artists of all kinds of different genres, whether it's musical or painting or what have you, movies, a lot of artists will, I don't want to say reuse a theme, but continue to go over a certain theme, trying to find the right way or the perfect way to present it. And so I was thinking in that sense, maybe, you know, the theme of the creepiness of dolls might be something that sticks with you. I mean, you as a person.
And then in my most recent short triangle that I put out last year or earlier this year, that's one of the things. I talk to my dolls in the movie. It's like a apocalyptic thing, and I'm like in this room talking to my dolls.
Do they talk back?
They don't, because it's like I think like I'm going out like on little like scavenger things to try to find like food for them. But so I'm walking around the apocalypse of Dayton, Ohio, like looking for like I'll pick up like vampire teeth and like a piece of an earring and then something else and bring it home and try to give it to them to eat. Like, because I just, you know, there's like nothing, and then I'm talking to them, and because it's just me and them, and or so I think. But yeah, so that just, you know, made me think of that. So yeah, maybe there's a weird doll thing. I mean, my dad used to make fun of me. I remember my dad making fun of me being like, starting to get into horror. I remember getting like Movie Maniacs for Christmas, like those toys. And it would be like a Leatherface toy and a Freddy toy from Nightmare on Elm Street. And like, I remember my dad being like, in his Italian Long Island accent, being like, "What, you fucking 13 years old? You getting toys for Christmas?" and like that, they're not like, no, he said dolls. You getting dolls? 13-year-old? You getting dolls for Christmas? Like, Dad, they're
collectible.
You know, they're horror toys. Yeah, and I still have like some of them. You know, I've definitely sold a bunch to, you know, pay rent at times, but yeah, I still got my first one, Leatherface, that I got when I was a kid and got made fun of for. You know, my brother was getting like PlayStation 1 and I was getting Chucky toys and dolls.
As one does.
As one does.
Is there maybe something childlike about it that speaks to you?
It could be, yeah. Totally. You know, and maybe it goes back to that haunted house too, you know, like, I don't know, man. I just watched a movie with my kid. She likes that show or that game, Five Nights at Freddy.
Yeah.
And we watched like a movie, I guess it's kind of inspired by it, but it's also the Hanna-Barbera thing, the Banana Splits movie. And I didn't get good. I had a good time watching it. And like, maybe it's that thing. Like, I like stuff like that, like the killer animatronics and stuff. And
the reason that I asked about the childlike thing is, funny enough, Chris, you know, mentioned my book earlier in the call, in the intro, and one of the things that you learn sometimes in counseling or recovery, if it hasn't been brought to your attention before, is this phrase: childlike is not childish. And there are, and it sounds almost even possibly something similar to what you just talked about with your father, about him, you know, teasing you about you getting dolls for Christmas. And, you know, there are definitely parents who do it to shame their kids, although sometimes it's not meant that way, but it just happens to be taken that way by the child. That, you know, sometimes the things that they enjoy, honestly, and you know, honest enjoyment of it, sometimes other people, like I say, intentionally or accidentally shame them for it. And there's a difference between being childish, which I think most people would identify with things like, you know, being spiteful, being nasty. I don't want to say not sharing, but like being spiteful about the way that they're not sharing, versus childlike, which is often associated with things like wonder and awe and joy, you know. So there's these positive elements that that sometimes get confused, or I don't want to say confused, but misinterpreted in order to shame or control somebody, which is not always a good thing. But, you know, thinking about that whole thing is making me wonder if there was some connection with Chucky or with, you know, the dolls or mannequins or something like that, reminding you of the wonder and joy part of that, the childlike part of it, rather than the childish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, going deep. Yeah, I dig it. It could totally be, man. And the first time I've ever thought about that. Yeah, I see the connection. I also have like this thing. I love like characters like Pee Wee Herman and Ernest, and characters like that are kind of like kids.
Well, what I would say is you say that you understand what I'm saying, and I guess the question that I'm coming back with is, but does that sound like it rings true for you? Because if it doesn't, then we're just talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean it does. Yeah, like I'm saying, I've never thought of it myself like that. I don't, sit around thinking about things that, shape me really, but yeah, like thinking about it, hearing it now, yeah, I do see it. Yeah. I mean, I see a weird connection, between dolls and youth and, and, innocence and being scary, dolls and clowns and stuff like that, because they're supposed to be like for kids, but usually they're fucking terrifying. And animatronics, that's why I like that shit. And yeah, so maybe yeah, I see it. I do. Okay. It's some weird thing that and like I said, in my new movie, I'm talking to my dolls. And so yeah, they're still there for me. The apocalypse, no one else is there, it's just me and my dolls.
Well, wouldn't be much of an apocalypse if it wasn't that way.
Hey, listen, if I got 10 John Cena figures to protect.
Can't go wrong with that.
I can't, man. I still got my like Macho Man wrestling buddies and shit. Yeah, I'll be all right.
Has horror actually, let me ask the other question first. Have you had any experiences in your adult life in real life that have scared you?
Oh yeah. I mean, death, the death of loved ones and,
there's a thing that happened in 2020. It was kind of worldwide.
I was just going to say, am I going to be that guy that's like the lockdown? Yeah, but yeah, coronavirus, man, put a lot of things in perspective for me.
Anything sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, did any of the things that have affected you as an adult, cause any, or introduce any fears that didn't exist before?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the coronavirus thing has.
It introduced fears of the fear of others that you just didn't even think of before.
Dude, absolutely. I think it really, like, the whole idea of like an airborne disease is terrifying. And, it changed how I think about a lot of things. And just like germs.
Yeah, I still don't touch doorknobs.
Oh, fuck no, man. I don't fucking...
How do you get in and out of your house?
I touch it with a shirt.
Right, well,
I put my hand through my shirt and I touch it. I don't touch it directly is what I meant.
Dude, I'm the guy, like, I traveled to, I went to the Poconos the other day to shoot scenes with Linnea, and I literally, like, how I do my road trips now, man, I only stop at those rest stops, and I'm the one, like, fucking super kicking the handicap thing to open the door automatically, because I'm not fucking touching that shit.
Yep.
Yeah, cause, I think just that and exposing people, man. See the fucking, seeing the Capitol riot shit, man. That scared the shit out of me. Like, legitimately. It really did. And it's like, whoa, this doesn't feel real right now. Like, just the fact that that's happening and militia groups and shit like that, man, that shit bugs me the fuck out.
I think that's a common thread, is like when you're older, the thing that scares you is not so much monsters and demons or even slashers. It's just the general snapped moment when people lose their shit, or just people that, are crazy all the time. Just not right in the head people.
Right, yeah.
Next two questions I want to ask. I'm going to give them to you both at the same time because they could be answered by the same answer or they could be different answers. What is your favorite movie, and what is the movie that you have watched more times than any other?
Oh boy. Okay. My favorite movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Okay. Forever I said it was The Shining, and I love The Shining. I love Kubrick. Nicholson's my favorite, but I think just over time, like, Pee-wee's been that movie, man. I can watch it every day. I love it so much. I love Paul Rubens, and that's definitely my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
I think the movie I've watched more than any other movie ever is definitely Truth or Dare: A Critical Madness, the Tim Ritter movie. It's like this super low budget movie made in Florida in the 80s, and it was like a direct to video movie, and I'm just obsessed with it. And it's,
What do you love about it?
It's again one of those movies that's unintentionally funny, I think, but there's this charm to it that I love. Like Tim Ritter is this director who's just continue to make like Truth or Dare movies still. And they're just over the top, but like the thing is, Truth or Dare was taken seriously. Like I think they shot it on film, they shot on 16, maybe 35, but I think 16 millimeter, and it's just a violent movie that was straight to video that I've showed so many people, and I love it so much. If you guys have never seen Truth or Dare or Critical Madness, I mean, you got
second time I've heard of this one. Definitely gonna have to watch this one. Steve, we've interviewed Tim, haven't we?
We have.
Yep.
Oh, you've interviewed Tim Ritter?
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, right on.
We didn't discuss that movie in particular, but we talked, just like we're not talking about a lot of your work in particular. Same thing with him. We're talking about what makes you tick as a person.
Right on. That's cool. Yeah. But yeah, check it out, man. It's because it's so entertaining. It's just entertaining as fuck, and I can watch that over and over too. So I would definitely.
What about it was entertaining to you?
Man, the main guy, Mike Strauber, the mask, like it's like Tim Ritter's movies, like all of them have this thread of like catching your wife cheating on you.
Yes.
And then it drives you crazy. And then you go out killing people. Like that's what his movies are always about. And Truth or Dare is just, there's this scene when this guy's like, he's so upset that his wife cheated on him that he goes to the beach and there's these shots of him in this car and he's driving down the highway and this song playing and it's like, this like Casio keyboard kind of electronic music, and then the song ends and then it restarts up again and then it drives and then he gets to the beach and then it's like piano music playing and he's depressed, but you can tell it's serious, like these are they want this to be dramatic, and then he goes to the beach and he randomly fights somebody in the water, and then that's like just on the beach, and then there's a scene where he's like at this campfire and he's in the middle of the woods. He's like really depressed. He's going mad. And then this woman appears out of nowhere. She's just like a figment of his imagination and starts playing Truth or Dare with him. And I just can't tell you how many times I've watched that scene. It's just, she's like daring him to like throw his wallet in the fire. And she's like, I dare you to throw your wallet in the fire. He's like, all right. And he does it. And then she's like, now cut your tongue out. And he's like, all right, I will. And he starts cutting his tongue out, and then he's in the mental institution, and then people's heads are exploding in the mental institution. It's fucking great. And and it's just, I've showed so many people that movie. And then Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. I've watched that one.
Garbage Pail Kids?
Which one?
Like the Garbage Pail Kids movie. That's another one that I've watched hundreds of times. I don't know what it is about that movie, but I love it.
I mean, that one is pretty clearly, because having remembered the Garbage Pail Kids as the cards, I can only imagine. I never saw the movie, but I can imagine what the movie is.
Oh, dude, you gotta see it. It's one of those things that you're like, how did this get passed? How did they go, yep, this is a good idea, guys? And
if you knew how much money the cards made, you would think.
Like on one end, I want to say exactly how did this get passed? Because what board of directors said, yes, let's make a movie about this disgusting, vile shit. But on the other hand, it's in the same light as how Pokemon movies get made today. It's a card game, kids love it, it'll make money.
True.
Do you see any common threads about what kind of horror you like? Cannibalism, occult, metaphysical? Body horror?
Definitely not cannibalism. It's definitely not my favorite.
Okay.
I definitely like camp. Like, I love the camp genre. Like, things that take place at summer camp. And I've always tried to figure out why, but I always love that, like, subgenre of horror films. I love Sleepaway Camp. That's one of my favorite movies. And I love that for other reasons, too. I think that movie is really important, actually. And,
what do you like about it?
I love that Sleepaway Camp. I mean, that ending is so impactful and really is, and like, man, I never seen anything like that. But I what I love about that movie, I think it dealt with things like the gay gay families and gay parents and stuff that wasn't in horror films. And I like that, that it had that.
Is that what was the initial like fan impact of it, or that's your afterthought?
That's like more of an afterthought. Like I like that it, involved, had like a gay couple, in that, and I never saw that before,
But on your initial viewing, what was it that jumped out at you?
I think, man, that initial viewing, just that spoiler alert, if you've never seen Sleepaway Camp, now you have 2 seconds, 1, 2, okay. It's just that ending, man, fucking the girl standing there naked and her penis like hanging out.
It's almost iconic at this point. Like I'm almost certain there are pins and stickers of the little girl with the penis with the knife in her hand.
Probably is. Oh yeah, and Felicia Rose is like acting and had to restart her career, and I love it. And she's awesome, and I just man, that movie is. I love the whole series actually. I really do. That's like one of my favorite series, and it's silly. But I love the sequels. I
still haven't seen any of the sequels. There were 2, 3, I think.
2, Sleepaway Camp 2, and then Sleepaway Camp 3 is like one of my favorite movies ever, dude. Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's crazy. Oh, yeah, there's like fucking so many creative like kills in it, and it's just Pamela Springsteen, Bruce Springsteen's like sister, is the killer, and it's so much fun, and so over the top. And but it's a lot of fun.
So let's go back to the first Sleepaway Camp for a minute, because you described the ending, but you didn't really describe what it was about it that you loved. Was it just the shock of it, or?
Yeah, I think that's what when that movie. It's one of those things. I do think it's a good movie, and it gets kind of lumped into the silly slasher genre, but I do think it's a good movie, and I think it's a good mystery, and I think the twist is probably one of the best twists ever in a slasher film. I mean. Absolutely. And man, it's that shock, the ending. Nobody sees that coming. I don't know. I think it's a great movie, and definitely that shock ending though. That shock ending, it fucking definitely it left me feeling like I never felt before. That left me with a feeling that I never felt before, so I could say that. And that's why I think that stuck with me.
It sounds like the 3 things that are coming up most in this call have been innocence that we talked about, or childlike stuff, humor and shock,
dolls,
and but I think that was tied in with the childlike stuff. And so narrowing in on those 3 things, typically one of the last questions we ask is why horror, because couldn't you find that stuff in other genres? And I think that's true of the childlike stuff, the innocent stuff, but shock and humor. Well, humor, you've got comedy movies. You didn't really, other than Pee-wee's, you didn't really bring up any comedy movies. Shock primarily is a horror thing. How do you think about those 3 things related to other genres?
I mean, I love comedy. I do. Like, what do you mean, like shock and comedy? Like.
What I'm saying is those 3 things: innocence, shock, and humor.
Yeah.
Are you as big of a fan of those things in other genres? Like, is what?
I mean, yeah, I do like comedies that do push the envelope too. Because I mean, I like Sacha Baron Cohen and the shit he does. I like comedy like that. That's like, comedy. The comedy I like is like Adam Sandler comedy. Honestly,
predictable comedy.
And
that's
yeah.
funny.
So
that's
like.
Fun.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just the comedy I like, and I mean, I really just recently got into the show The Office.
Okay.
And I've never seen it before, and I almost done with it. I think it's brilliant.
There's this guy in that's in this movie that's really quiet now. It's pretty good.
Oh, the guy. Yeah, the quiet ones or whatever. I never saw that actually, but I do got it. I would like to check that out. But yeah, the Office has some shocking stuff in it.
It does.
And I'm like, sometimes I just watched an episode and there was a guy in blackface, and I was like, whoa, that was did not expect that. But it's smart writing, and it's clever, and it's it's satire.
Oh.
And it's making fun of how people are, and I don't know. I think So yeah, I like it all, but I think horror just mends all that stuff together maybe better.
Mainly, the question's more about possibly uncovering something else we haven't talked about in relation to other genres. But if that doesn't go anywhere, then that's fine too. So, considering the theme of the podcast, is there anything relevant that you're aware of that we haven't asked about or talked about?
Yeah, did we miss anything?
Yeah. No, I mean, no, you touched on some shit that I've never thought about before.
That's the idea.
Yeah, the dolls thing. I'm sitting in my living room right now looking at all my dolls, and I'm getting a little freaked out, man.
Yeah.
Why?
I got like a paper mache Michael Jackson looking at me. I got a fucking stand up of the Miz looking at me, and yeah, yeah. So you guys delved into some shit, you know?
Yeah, can relate. I just counted 14 pop vinyls that stare at me every day as I sit in my office at home doing my remote job, and yeah, I'm not gonna feel the same way now. They're all just black, lifeless eyes too,
staring at you.
Yeah.
Stop looking at me, Finn.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
All right, so I mean, those are pretty good summaries. 3 things that we talked about. Do those seem like the most accurate things for you, or is there something that you think is more relevant?
No, yeah, that makes sense, man. I think sometimes I say things or like we talk about stuff, and I'm like, man, it sounds cliche. Like everyone talks about Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff, but I mean, I guess that's the shit that shaped me and still does. And sometimes you don't realize it. I don't think about, the dolls have affected me, and it's this thing my dad said to me at this time in my life or whatever. But when you talk like this to other people, and yeah, you figure shit out, I guess. And it's interesting.
That's the point.
Yeah, right.
So before we close the call, do you want to pitch anything on the way out?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm making my next movie, Thrust. Has nothing to do with dolls, but it's a girl gang. It's like a post-apocalyptic girl gang thriller, is what I've been saying. And it's we got an Indiegogo up right now. If you want to go check it out, it's just go on my Facebook or my Instagram, Video Bonacore, Victor Bonacore, and check out Thrust on Indiegogo. It's got an ensemble cast of like a lot of great underground indie actresses, and I'm stoked to be making it. We're shooting July 31st. Yeah, go check that out.
Cool.
We got like almost 10 grand raised out of 15 at the moment.
Nice.
So, yeah.
We'll put together a bio for you and put that on the Horror Mixes Happy page so we can link to whatever you want, and that way fans can listen to this and then go find your stuff.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to anybody out there listening. Again, please do come visit us at horrormixeshappy.com. Aside from the people that we have already interviewed, we also have a list of people we'd like to interview. If you can get us in touch with any of those people, or if you'd like to have somebody added to the list, let us know. There's links to our social media and Patreon and all kinds of stuff. If you can support us, there's a Redbubble account with t-shirts and stickers and all kinds of fun stuff. Just let us know how we're doing. HorrorMixesHappy.com.
T-shirts, good.